welcome to Rhinofeed. Today I'm going to review the A118 Novatek 96650 HD Dashcam. So this one in particular is unique in a couple different ways. First of all, it has a 170-degree viewing angle, which is a little bit wider than the more common dashcams out there that are $15, $20 cheaper. And this one also has a unique shape to the chassis, which is a wedge shape. So it hides a little bit better in your window, and it's kind of unique that way. It shoots 1080p at 30 frames per second, and you can also shoot at 720p at 60 frames per second. So let's go over everything that's included in the box. I have everything laid out here. So obviously you have the dash cam itself. You have a cable cover that you can, let's see, it would go like this. If this is the top of your window, it's going to be angled like this. So if your window, it's essentially just to route cables through and hide them if need be. I personally don't use it, as I don't need that extra space, but some people might. Also, you have included are some cable clips here, which I also have not used, but you get 5 of those, and they're black. You also get some string, which is useful to remove the adhesive backing, if need be, I guess. That's what I've heard. I find it a little silly. And here is the double-sided tape made by 3M. The included stuff they give you is gray, which is not optimal because it actually shows up in your window a lot more visible than clear or black tape. So I would recommend picking up different tape. Also, you get a USB to 12-volt power adapter for your car, which this thing has a ridiculously long cable. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going, and finally I found it. So it's 13 feet long. So you'll have plenty of cable to work with if you want to properly route it around your window. So it's not just hanging down the middle of your dashboard. And if you want to see the box here, it's got various things. Seamless link loop recording, so once your card is full, it's going to re-record over the oldest footage unless you put a lock on a particular piece of footage. And it's going to seamlessly go from one file to the next, and you won't really notice a jump at all, which is really good. Have automatically recording while starting the engine of your vehicle. AV out function, which is going to be right on the back here. And then the wide viewing angle like I talked about before. You have a G sensor built in, night vision, it's USB 2.0, a TF card, which would stand for trans flash, but it's the same as a micro SD card essentially, and then loop recording, which we talked about. And that's about it. You also get a manual, which is kind of useless, I think, because oh, never mind. It is in English. I thought it was in Chinese. So there we go. Let's take a look at the unit itself now. Alright, so let's turn it on and look at the various menus. You have 3 LEDs at the top, a recording indicator, power, and microphone. So it's pretty simple. Just press the menu button. This is going to be your down through the menu, and this is going to be your up button through the menu. You'll select that, and you can go through the various resolutions. I don't know why you'd want to use anything other than 1080p or 720 60 frames per second. So I've obviously selected 1080p. There is loop recording. You can set the length of time between video files. So I've selected the longest, 5 minutes. Oops. There's HDR mode, which I've turned on. There's your exposure levels, which I haven't found any reason to change them. There's motion detection, which I've turned off. Recording audio, which I've kept on. A date stamp, which is always useful, so I kept that on. GPS, which there's not built-in GPS, so that's just to turn on if you ever have a module that's plugged into this. I think that's it. Oh, and the G sensor as well, which I've turned off. I just keep it simple. It automatically records once it's plugged in. And then it will, once you unplug it, it will turn off after a couple minutes. For date time settings. Oops, how do I get out of this? Sometimes I wonder. Pressing the power button will turn off the screen, but it will not turn off the unit unless you hold it down. No! Oh, just the middle button. Whatever. Auto power off. Beep sound. Should I turn that off? Languages. TV mode, as you can plug this into the TV if you wanted. Frequency, I have no reason to change that, so it's 60 Hertz. You have a screensaver, which I think that means it will keep the screen on for a couple minutes and then turn off. You can format the card from there. You can reset to factory defaults, and then you can also look at the firmware version. All right, that about covers the software side of things. Let's look at the chassis itself. To turn it off, I'll hold it down, and it's not going to turn off until I finally release it a few seconds later. All right, so on the right or left side, depending which direction you're looking at, you have your micro SD card slot, your microphone. On the other side, there's a tiny little R button, which you can't really reach, and I think that is a reset button. On the back, you'll find all of your ports. This first one is for your power, for your USB, and you can also plug this into your computer to transfer data to and from if you don't want to take out the micro SD card. You have your GPS module input there, and then your audio/video out to go to your TV if you want to look at it from there. On the back, you'll have the little mount system, which will go onto your other clip that they give you. I'll have to show you a picture of that inside the vehicle. And then you also have, finally, the lens itself, which can be rotatable using a nice little clicky mechanism here, which is very cool. It's kind of fun to play with. And that about covers the chassis. Honestly, it's built pretty well for what it is, and I like it a lot the way it mounts to the dashboard on an angle like this. It hides itself pretty well and not too noticeable from the outside of the vehicle. Another thing I want to mention is that this micro SD card slot, it only accepts up to 32 gigabyte cards unless you're able to format a 64 gig card in such a way that it will recognize it. But that requires a lot of finagling, and while people have gotten it to work, I don't really recommend it. It's just easier to use a compatible card. Real quickly here, I also wanted to show you the file system, and you'll see it's pretty straightforward. You can also take photos with it, so they'll have a separate photo folder. Movies, they're all going to be here in a big list, and they have the year, date, time, and military time, and then numbers 1 and 2 for each section of video. So if you have a group of recordings, you can see this goes all the way 1 through 9, and it'll just continue counting up for however long your ride is. And then this folder at the very top is whatever footage is locked and you want to keep. And you can lock footage just by pressing the center button while it's recording, or you can go into the playback mode and lock footage that way as well. So it's pretty straightforward, and I like their file system naming. It just makes sense. Alright, so let's take a look at some of the footage now. I have lots of different various shots. I have cloudy days, sunny days with lots of tree shadows, so you can see the exposure and how it adjusts as quickly as it does. Yeah, so let's just take a look at that. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. And as always, please rate, comment, and subscribe.